Is your hood up?
Yeah. Well, if it's not up, then I keep disappearing. So I'm trying to like make it to where I'm at least consistent.
He's disappearing into the wall.
I don't know.
I like the background.
It's the riddle of the video editor. On today's episode of Epic Movie Podcast, and we're doing it Zoom still because the world is fucking done.
It's coming down to the nitty gritty now. You don't want to look outside.
Mason's at a new studio. We're all at our same studios. I'm your host today, Dylan Camacho. Today with me, obviously at the new studio, is Mason. Also with slightly better lighting at the old studio is Price Bell. And last but not least, the man of the month, we got Nathan Long here up against a very well done brick stuff. So
Oh, it looks great.
yeah,
It does. It really does.
Guys, what movie are we talking about?
Sing
Nathan?
Street.
Yeah.
Sing Street. The Irish coming of age story, I guess.
All right. So, and we're not going to give any other extra details of the movie other than that.
No,
That's all you need.
no.
Irish coming of age story. That's a teen drama with music. Boom, done. All right. Now that we got past that, it's also set in like the 70s or so.
80s.
Yeah.
85.
Mid-80s, yeah.
80s.
It's 85.
I was
It's
thinking
Duran.
Yeah, 80s. So, Mason, this was your pick for Nathan.
Yep.
So tell me all about it. What was like, all right, here's how I win. I'm going to pick Sing Street. Why?
All right. So notoriously, Nathan does like musical movies. You have picked The Greatest Showman. He rant and raved about that, more so than Price and I. You know, we both enjoyed it. No, ranted, raved.
He went crazy.
Yeah. He also picked Repo, which is notorious amongst this podcast. If anyone has ever heard of that movie.
2 thumbs down.
But 6 thumbs up in this podcast, though, strangely enough.
But yeah, so this kind of movie, you know, it's kind of got that weird love interest. It's Irish, you know, something that has also got some appeal, and it's got a lot of music in it, which is, I think, some of the better types of like the original soundtrack. I think it has a little bit of a backbone when it comes to this music. So, but yeah, so I don't know. I watched this movie last year, and I remember it being really good. Didn't think that I would be able to place it in this group, but luckily I got my chance. So here we are.
So before we talk about if it's good or not, Nathan, do you think that like that rationale hit with you? Do you think that like this movie was a good choice for you? Not if it was a good movie, but like, yeah, I thought so too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
This definitely checked a lot of the boxes.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing that's not been done yet is just like that, like very visually engaging.
Oh yeah.
But you guys have been
That's me.
hitting everything
That's me.
else.
I was gonna say I wish I could have told you that last week. Like this movie's just dark and dingy and like ugly. But
I gotta say though, the costumes are very much a part of visuals, and there's a lot of costume changes in this. Like they are just switching genres and looks all the time. I think that's great.
Yeah, I think that the costumes agreed, but yeah, the visuals. I'm sorry that Dylan and I couldn't have.
We weren't
checked
going
up.
for visuals, fam. Like
It all falls on my
left-
broad shoulders.
we left all of those chicken nuggets on Bryce's plate that day, right?
I had those today. I had nuggets today.
I'm sure you
I did.
Do you have some peas too?
Oh boy.
No peas. But anyway, okay, I'll go ahead and get my biggest critique out of the movie. Mason, you knew that like this movie isn't for me. Like
I'm sorry.
I love the music. I mean, we talked for like 30 seconds before this podcast, and we all just agreed immediately that like the soundtrack is good. But to go ahead and jump into the review, like it very much starts on a high note. It ends on a very low note in terms of music. Like I think those beginning songs were amazing. And then it got like, it still held pretty strong up to when like he's kind of like romanticizing. I forgot what the name of that song was, but anyway, but then when it actually gets to them performing at the gig or whatever, I fell off. Like those songs to me were terrible. Like that slow song especially were terrible. And then he tried doing that fast song later, and it was just, it did not hit. Like it felt like he was trying to reach high notes.
Yeah.
Like he could not possibly obtain, and it just sounded really bad.
Yeah.
to me.
the thing with the slow song is I totally expected it to be the other slow song that they had composed earlier,
which was
in the movie,
good.
which was
Yeah,
a really
very good.
that was a good song. And then
Yeah.
they throw this other one out that I do agree. A lot of the songs that they played at the show were kind of lackluster. And the last one that was supposed to be like the big like
The FU
you know,
to the
yeah,
headmaster.
it didn't have enough punch to it, really. I
Yeah.
feel like it was a little too soft of a song.
It was repetitive too. Like, you know.
Very much. But I
Yeah.
mean that can fit that kind of genre, but they didn't quite hit it on that one. But they did a good job on a lot of others.
You know, and I think even adding on to that too, this is an Irish-based, like, and it's a period piece band in its own time. But not once did I hear any.
The bagpipes.
Yeah, I didn't hear a bagpipe.
Oh, hold up! Now
no,
there was
bagpipe.
bagpipes.
Yeah. Homeboy did play bagpipe for a minute. Let me backtrack myself.
Dude, that guy was cool. He was probably easily the best part of the band, besides that little short cowboy kid.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, he was awesome. Were the two, like the drummer and the bassist, were they actually gay?
I don't know.
It doesn't have any like.
It doesn't
Yeah.
specify. Ask me next
I
month
thought they
whenever
were.
it's relevant.
I
Next
don't
month is
care.
Pride Month. So.
Next month is relevant. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know why that matters, but either way. So, yeah, this movie, like, and I agree. Like the music really starts strong, hits that middle phase where it's like it's just okay in the whole dance part. The slow song, it did really chunk up the pacing of it, and I really felt like that was the part that was falling out of it for the movie.
Yeah.
And then at the end, like the back and forth with the girl drama, I kind of appreciated that he kind of was like sitting up for himself whenever he walks away from her that time on the bench. I was like, okay, good. He's like, this isn't just going to be like a play it by ear. Like, I'm in love with this girl. I'll just take the hits.
Yeah.
But, you know, he gets karma in the end because he kills them on a boat later. There's no way they survive that ending. I'm telling you guys right now.
Just riding the coattails of that big ass ship.
They're dead.
Yeah.
They took a dinghy from Ireland to the UK, and I'm not from either place, nor do I know the distance at all. But they don't make that trip. They run out of gas, and they stay stranded, and they die.
This is the 80s, man. You can hope. You know, who knows?
In the 80s, at best, they get pneumonia on that boat. Like, they are dead. They are so gone. All right.
But that's one of the things like I really didn't like about this movie, which Mason knows that like these teenage drama movies were like just the over the top positivity and just like everything will be okay for them, even though it shouldn't, and like this is how they're gonna fall in love with each other, even though it's really weird and it doesn't make sense. Like I just couldn't get on board with that. Like,
yeah.
And that's really going to hurt the score for me. But that's just because it's not my kind of movie at all.
Right.
Like, the teenage drama movies, I do not like.
With this movie, I do think, even when I suggested it, I was sitting there thinking of like the plot and the storyline and everything. It is very condensed into this like tiny little can of Spam where like they don't really, elaborate too much this way. It is just about this guy who is created a band to like fall in love or make this girl fall in love back with him, and that's it. There's not a whole lot of like other stuff. They do add in the brother, which I think is cool. They add in that headmaster guy, which is sort of kind of gets what he deserves, I guess, at the end. They add these little tiny segments left and right, and it's the divorcing parents, Peter or not Peter, what's his name, Littlefinger,
yeah.
Thrones. They add in a lot of these parts, and I'm kind of with you just in the fact that like it's a little bit lackluster, but it's subtle. I think it tells a good enough story. But yeah, the soundtrack. One thing I want to say, the soundtrack, "Drive It Like You Stole It," easily the best song.
That's the song.
Yeah.
That's
easily
the
the best song.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because they had all the theatrics, they had all of like the costume changes. It was an American prom,
Yeah.
But I liked almost every song from it. I can't remember the one that you guys were mentioning at the very beginning. Like
I did get the biggest laugh out of it when like they do the big "Drive It Like You Stole It" and like it ends and then it goes back to reality.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Have you all seen Back to the Future?" And they're like, "No." He's like, "Well, just do like a little 50s like pop kind of thing." And they're all like, like they don't know what to do. I laughed there. That was pretty funny.
So Did anybody else know this one? Once I noticed it, it was jarring for me in the movie, where the entire time he's speaking, he's just like, oh yeah, and he's got a very Irish tone. The second he starts singing, and I was ever like total accent drop, total clean, like probably maybe British or straight just English voice, like.
I have no idea, but yeah, I know what you mean. It was very crisp and like clear when he was singing.
Right.
This is a tough accent to understand, I think, at the very beginning, especially when he's talking about, or talking to that, I guess he was the bassist of it, the guy that was playing the bagpipes, the keyboard, all that stuff. It was tough for me to understand towards the beginning, kind of like Legend. Actually, I just watched that video. But kind of like we said in that video, once you fell into the accents, it was good for me.
Yeah.
So.
Most of the accents I thought were pretty okay to understand. The only one that I had to take a very hard focus on was the band manager, the little red-headed guy.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, that was a hell of an accent.
Yeah.
But I thought that was entertaining too. Yeah, I didn't really like. I feel like as far as the singing voice switching out of having an accent, I mean, do you all not feel like a lot of bands end up
ton of them
that way? Like that's usually the way most bands sound.
Adele, is very British whenever she talks in interviews, but I mean, you wouldn't be able to know it from her music.
Right.
A lot of British bands are like that. I don't know about Irish bands. I don't know enough of them.
And I don't know what it is. And I know that's like a real common thing too, is that accents really lose translation in singing. But something about having a movie around it and noticing it is jarring. And I can't say it's like necessarily a bad thing. It's a realistic thing. So really, it should be like paying a credit to its strength rather than the con. But for me, I would just be like, is somebody dubbing over it? Is this a talented good singer? Like, it had me guessing, and that just those little moments took me out of it for a brief minute, like at the beginning, and then I would transition like the song as it went on. But I don't know. That's something for me that I was just like, oh, I don't know enough music. I don't hang out with musicians, so this isn't the thing that I know, especially musicians with like heavy accents. Now, if somebody had a southern twang and then went up there and then sounded like a northerner immediately, then maybe I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But
yeah.
And I noticed this like about the dynamic between the two brothers that were in the main guy and then his brother. I'm telling you, has anyone else here seen Onward, the Pixar movie?
Yeah. I just watched it 3 days ago.
Exact same dynamic.
They are.
It's exactly the same. Like I couldn't not notice it after.
So Onward ripped off Sing Street.
It's not a big. Yeah.
They really did. Except
exactly
Pixar probably had that into the swing before this movie came out because it is an animated movie.
Yeah.
So maybe it was very much a natural oops or whatever.
Yeah.
What I wanted to mention, the brother, the sort of screw up brother, whatever you want to call him, he was in Midsummer, and I think
that's where he's from.
That's it. Yeah.
Kill him.
This is a huge step out for him because in Midsummer he was. I hated this. I mean, absolutely hated him in Midsummer.
Which arguably is a credit to his strength.
Exactly. Right. You were supposed to. But this movie, I think he was very much passionate about anything that came out of his mouth. I mean, the bands were his thing. The music was his thing. So he really sold it for me. And even the little sister that, was a try-hard and a scholar, even she kind of won me over towards the end. But
yeah.
I was pretty pleased overall with how grounded this teen drama was, because sometimes teen dramas can tend to go a little bit too fantastical, but I think this one stayed stably pulled.
Relatively. I would say relatively.
All right, so maybe running off with the boat at the end, that's about my only all right, that's the drama. Sure.
That's where I draw the line.
Right. And to be fair, he kills both of them immediately.
That was before the internet. That was before they figured out, holy shit, this is a bad idea.
Yeah. Here's the thing. This is actually a way darker movie than, what's the one with the girl?
No.
The Earl of the Dying Girl?
Right, yeah, because they both die. But they just don't show it. So anyway, no, yeah, other than that, the tone and everything stays consistently, and the stakes never feel like they're way over the top. Even the parent drama feels realistic. The brother didn't feel too guru wisdom-ish or anything like that. I bought the relationship between them.
Because he broke down too.
Yeah, he had the downs as well. They all had that moment where they all processed the divorce, and I'm glad that happened in the way that it did. Like, if he had had like a breakdown early or somewhere out of place with it, I don't think that feels natural. But knowing that their parents finally divorced, like they're playing it off like it's not a big deal, but they're all feeling that and they know that they're getting the strife part, and then having him break there, I was just like, all right, perfect. And that's not like, that seems like a really easy thing to set up, but I've seen it, like people just toss that stuff in at wrong times, and I'm like, I just appreciated the right time of this. The drama was all the right places, and I enjoyed that for this film overall. And yeah, I'm glad that they even made like even some of the small stuff bigger, because that's one of my bigger things about teen dramas is you want to feel like you're a teenager in it, right? So like having a kid who was just like he made the whole band just to get this girl, I was just like, believable. Like teenager is like, yes, I will.
The one part that really got me about the teenager part was like, I could watch cringy stuff all the time and be fine, but holy crap, when they go to the island or whatever, and like she's like just talking, and he's just looking at her like, just shut up. I'm not listening. I just want to kiss you. I just want to kiss you. Then he finally does, and then like he wants to keep going. And she like has to eat the cracker. She's like, "Come on, I've eaten the cracker." I'm like, "No, stop."
I love that because that's so naturally like
it is.
Like it. The only reason people hate that is because they're like, "Fuck, I have a moment and it's bringing it up for me, and I don't want
right here in my head." I liked whenever he changed his hairstyle and like how he just didn't care what that headmaster guy he thought, and all this stuff. He kind of rebelled. And there was some foreshadowing to that. His brother actually told him that, and I didn't realize it in the first watch through, but I did see it in this one where he straight up told him that they just punish children by like beating them senseless in just the worst ways, like and this is a very much like an inner city school in Ireland. Like here, this is like middle of Detroit, bad kids go here. I think that's what this is supposed to be in Ireland, where like, anything
80s,
goes.
So it's rough.
Right.
Yeah.
80s Irish probably Catholic school.
Catholic. Yeah.
Like honestly, the violence is probably toned down for this movie. Situation.
Anything else you guys want to talk, pros, cons before we get into maybe fat, thin?
See, everybody says
you all suck at this.
Fat, thick, perfectly thin. Damn it. All right, let's just get into that then. We can talk in pros and cons for the last point in the review. We'll make this quick. I guess I'll lead on this one because I'm just talking. So this movie feels pretty fit. I don't feel like it overstayed its welcome. There's nothing that immediately comes to mind that I was like, I would cut this, or this part feels unnecessary, or this felt fat. Like even all the extra parts around the main story with the little like band building and all that felt fun and fine. Even the scene where they recruit the bully, which is normally like a thing that I'm usually like, I don't believe. I'm like, whatever, I believe this. But he's just like, fuck it, we're all Irish and drunk and angry, so let's just do it.
Yeah.
So, I think this movie's pretty fit. It doesn't go over 2 hours, which is nice. So yeah.
I'll go. This movie, I'll agree. I think it's very fit. The only thing that I wish that they would have maybe touched on was that girl just did sort of disappear. Don't really know where she went, and she didn't even really acknowledge it, I don't think, unless I just missed it after, he went to her doorstep and when she was like acting like she was the sister and all this stuff. I wish they would have elaborated a little bit, because I don't think you can just hop town or hop the country. She went with her
15.
boyfriend. That's what it was.
Well, she
right?
Yeah, but she did say that she was left at like a B&B. So that's where she went, basically, is he probably like took her somewhere just to like hook up, I guess, and then left her.
Yeah, and then she had to find her way back. Maybe that's what it was. Yeah. So
yeah.
All right. My point is nulled. So it is pretty fit for me too. So
Bryce?
It's fit for me too. I mean, I would cut out some of the bad songs at the end, but I don't know what I'd replace it with, because I can't come up with anything better.
I would replace it with the good songs that they teased me with at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Like maybe like kind of remix like the songs at the beginning, just doing a little bit differently. That would have been cool. But still fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody has pretty much come to the same consensus on this. It's a fit movie. There's not more that you need out of this story, really. And there's not anything that needs to be taken out. I mean, this is a pretty solid package. It's an enjoyable ride. I do agree that those last couple of songs are kind of but I mean, it's still like very impressive that they came up with so many original songs for this, and that they do have a couple of them that are, kind of bangers. Like, they're pretty good songs.
Yeah.
I've actually gone back on YouTube a few times and looked up the "Drive It Like You Stole It" scene, and it's lovely every time you watch it.
It has like 12 million views. I saw it.
Oh, it's so good.
It's
so
6 million
good.
of those are Mason's views.
Yeah. The brother comes in on the motorcycle and just punches that guy, and then they walk out together, and he has
There's like, what are you gonna do?
Switchblades. Yeah.
Sometimes you get in knife fights, and sometimes you make a new friend. What do you got?
Yeah, that's what it is.
All right, well, let's get into the scores, and we'll wrap up on this lovely Easter weekend. Psych, that was last weekend.
I don't know my days anymore.
Yeah, you're confusing us.
Bryce, you celebrate Easter. What was your score for this movie?
I don't see how that's relevant at all. But I'm going with 4.5, which I think is pretty high for a movie like that is not in my wheelhouse whatsoever. I mean, the music was fine. I just really didn't like the teenage drama aspect. I don't like teenage dramas. I never have. And everything around this is based around the drama between the two teens. But everything else around it's so strong, like the point that Dylan made earlier about how it kind of bucks those trends by being more grounded than a lot of teenage dramas are, really helps the movie, in my opinion. So I'm still going 4.5.
Well, that was just more teen drama for us. All right. I'm going to give this movie, I was really high on it. I was on an 8.5, but the more I think about it and let it digest, I'm going to go down to a 7.5. Okay. And here's why. I'm thinking about rewatchability, and I'm like, it was a pretty by-the-books teen drama. Like, the core of the movie is a teen drama and a musical, essentially. And the music I'll go back and listen to, but I'd rather just do that on Spotify. The teen drama stuff is very by the books. It's solid. It's good. The movie is paced out very well and done excellent across the board. But I don't think I'd go back for any emotional beats for it. I don't go back to re-fall in love with these characters, or nothing dramatic or something happens. It stays grounded, which is a great strength, but it doesn't give me something super extra to want to go back to for it other than the music. So I think that just levels it down just a little bit, but I think it's definitely the music is punching at me. This easily could round up to an 8 if it had just something a little bit extra, or if the teens died on the boat right at the end. I would go back,
like they did.
I would, yes, exactly what it did happen.
On camera.
Yes, on camera. Wave hits. The brother looks back in the rearview mirror.
Would it have been better?
He's cheering.
Would it have been better than Me and Earl and the Dying Girl if both of them died at the end?
No, there's more. It's built up for the entire movie in Me and Earl. But
True.
This one, for a random surprise death,
just cuts it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the movie cuts. Then it may be as good as Remember Me after that. But it's at a sweet 7.5 for me. It could go a little bit higher if it just had something more, but it's right on the cusp. Mason.
I'll agree. So I had it actually at a 9, and then for your exact same point, this movie, I will watch it again, but it doesn't have the I don't remember as many scenes from it months down the road like I do in a lot of other movies, and it's just not as memorable. The soundtrack does very much help it. So I am actually going from a 9 to an 8.5. Again, I'll watch this movie probably every couple years, if not more. It's fun enough, but I do see what you're saying. It's not as catchy. The visuals aren't as catchy as some of your other movies. Like you with Inception. Just not as memorable. So but that's all I've got. So 8.5 for me.
Nathan, round it out right to a solid 8, buddy. I know where you're feeling on this.
The important one. Let's
go. Real quick. I don't know if I've said this while we were recording earlier. Nathan's roommates, Annabeth and Jill, are advocates for this podcast and our channel. I was also trying to broadcast to them this movie, and luckily they did watch. So what were their reactions before you throw us your score?
The previous movies they've watched were like Brokeback Mountain and just universally hated movies that we've talked about. So please tell, Nathan.
I mean, they definitely liked it. This is exactly the kind of movie that they would enjoy. So that was no surprise. And it was one that was kind of on their radar to begin with. Apparently, Spotify was suggesting songs from this movie to Annabeth before we even watched it.
Well, that's just Amazon.
That's incredible, actually.
Yeah.
Kind of a weird way to go.
But you know, as far as my score, yeah, I mean, you just make me want to change it. Just to say this.
You're right. You should change it.
This movie's great. It's an 8.
Oh, dang it.
The one thing.
I just let you got this.
Doesn't work anyway. It's fine.
The one other thing I did want to mention about this movie that I appreciated is that this did not become a movie about inter-band drama, which I was
I never thought about that.
Because
that's a good point.
Well, so early on in the first music video, the Dangerous Eyes one, the keyboardist like pulls himself over in front of the bassist so that he's like better in shot, and then like in a couple of the subsequent shots they show him like, you know, walking down the street playing on the keyboard and everything, and it's like,
I forgot about that.
Is he about to really try and steal the spotlight? Is this going to become a problem? But yeah, luckily it didn't do that to us, and for that I definitely give it some extra credit, because like half the time I was just expecting at some point somebody's going to like cause some extra drama when this thing had enough of a good core story without it. So
and that's usually the deteriorate.
It's usually the guitarist and the singer, because the guitarist is like, you got your eyes on the girl and not the music, and like, it's not changing my opinion on the music. Good point. That's a really good point.
There's a lot of praise we got to know that it held back on a lot of the tropes that it could have done. Like, it could have made it more drama, but again, like, it stayed fit for a good reason with that. So that was a solid point to point out.
Glad you brought that up.
Well, that's our show. Bye, guys.
Bye. Fake news.
We got
one more. We got
one more coming up on this month, and that is going to go to Price. Price, what is your honorable pick for King Nathan the Long?
Well, since you two have lacked in the visuals department, I thought I would pick up that slack and
Please
present
do,
this movie
sire.
that I have right here. Actually, it is backwards on your screen.
I can't read it anyway.
The Night is Short, Walk On Girl. It's actually straight up.
No, it's the right direction.
It is.
It is.
What does that say? The night is short. Walk on, girl.
Yep, that is the movie. It's a beautiful movie. It's short too, so even easier watching.
Cool.
So I love the movie. I bought it, obviously. So that's gonna be my pick for my man Nathan. That I'm gonna come in with.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm more excited about this than I am Brokeback Mountain for you from Dylan's pick. I really am.
I think this could bomb. You think this is gonna bomb?
No. I'm
okay.
Like, the visuals for this, for Brokeback Mountain, I was excited for the review, and I hadn't seen the movie yet. This, I'm actually excited for both. Because we watched the trailer for this for their fans. We actually watched the trailer for this back when we watched Paprika, which was suggested from Price to Dylan, which is down here on my screen. But we looked at this and we all just didn't know what to say about it, because it is a very visually different film.
I've seen it twice, and I have my rationale for why I'm picking it for Nathan besides that, but I'm going to leave that for the video.
Fair.
All right. Cool. All right. Looking forward to it.
No, Nathan.
Very cool.
You're going.
He's signing us off. Come on, Nathan.
Yeah. You wrap us up. You got
it. Okay. Man, it's all out of sync now, guys. This is like whenever the bassist randomly drops a beat and the whole band just kind of goes out of tempo.
They just look at each other.
That's the video right now. Anyway, guys, that's our video for this week, I guess. If you're upset that you didn't hear the Dropkick Murphys in this video, make sure to hit us in the comments below with your favorite lyric. Make sure to like this video if you like this content. Also, if you want to see Nathan host a rock band party right after this video, because I really wanted to go play rock band party after this.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Oh,
let's
yeah.
put the band back together.
Yeah.
Thinking about that the whole time.
I know. I was just like, oh man, we can pitch this song to Nathan.
That'll be
That would
the
be-
outfit that I choose, by the way. The one from the prom. That's who I'm
Yeah.
coming as to your party.
I feel like that'd be wasting my time if we had to do that.
But
Don't.
Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Come on.
I
Sign
would.
us off.
That song is that. That's our show, everybody. Make sure to quit wasting your time here. We're cutting it out. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.